I'm sure this is, we're not going to begin till we get a response from all of you. So good evening, everyone. You know how we do this. We got to do this in style. We're starting in the evening, so no jet lag, no, none of that. So once again, good evening, everyone. This is the 25th year of the NASSCOM India Leadership Forum, popularly known as NILF. Quite an astounding feat, isn't it? To be able to not just sustain, but also grow every year for more than 2.5 decades. Over time, it has carved a niche for itself to attract global leaders and provide a powerful platform to the industry for exchange of ideas and sharing use cases, including best practices. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome all of you to NILF 2017 here in Mumbai. While continuing with our digital disruption journey, this year we're saying reimagine, not re-engineer. The overarching theme for the next 3 days, 2.5 actually. A little later, you'll also find out how under the umbrella theme nestles 3 other distinct themes. One, distinguished for each day. Like all other years, we've lined up a rather impressive array of global thought leaders who'd be sharing their learnings on how a VUCA world can possibly be reimagined. Without any further ado, let's kick off the summit, but before that, I'm going to request all of you to put your phones on silent. So ladies and gentlemen, as usual in style and panache, we have the opening act that we put together for all of you. Sit back and enjoy, and I'll see you right after this one. Ladies and gentlemen, how far we've come and how quickly from floppy disks to the era we live in now. That was Team Zenith that put together the riveting act. So now let me invite on stage Mr. R. Chandrasekhar, the president of NASSCOM, and it's a pleasure to welcome him to deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, esteemed speakers, participants, friends from overseas, people from the media, ladies and gentlemen. It's really an honor and a privilege to welcome all of you to the NILF. This NILF is really, really special because it's the 25th NASSCOM India Leadership Forum. And this is our flagship event. So 25 years of this event, it has grown from strength to strength and has made it what it is. And it's all because of all of you, participants, speakers, and people from all over the world who congregate here. Every time, every year, with a lot of different people each year. 25 is also a very interesting age for most people. And it's worthwhile to look at what a 25-year-old does in this world. 25-year-olds tend to build alliances. And I'm not saying this just because we've just crossed Valentine's Day. This is also an occasion where NASSCOM helps to build alliances. Alliances across different stakeholders, partners, ideating with speakers, creating a strong messaging framework through this event, where we take stock of events, developments, and prepare ourselves to embrace a future enthusiastically. And to bring about a high degree of ownership and a shared vision for that future and what we can do to embrace it wholeheartedly. As you heard in the riveting initial performance and the introductory remarks, this time it's not anymore about re-engineering, it's about reimagining. And if you look at another characteristic of 25-year-olds today, we can put them into three buckets. To create, that's the creative urge. To consume, this is the consumerist era. And to crave, which is perhaps the logical evolution of consumption. The impulse to create something new, to be able to do something totally different, something unique, something to change the status quo. The mind of a rebel, but channeled into constructive rebellion. This is something which is today being driven by changing needs as well. And the strong desire to stand out. And what better platform can you have than NILF to really stand out and make yourself seen? But we also want to make sure that people are not only seen, but at the same time, through their participation, through their acts, we are able to bring out all the different dimensions of the disruption that surrounds us in every aspect of our life these days. What about the second characteristic of consume as opposed to creation? This is a time when we are driven by consumerism. Perhaps consumerism has gone so far as in most cases to even exceed the ability to support that level of consumption. And perhaps that is what has driven some of the digital overload that characterizes the digital universe that we live in, and the advent of big data and analytics, social, mobile, Internet of Things, and allied technologies. So that is where the habit of consumption is driving the changes that are around us. And finally, when you look at the craving, and as consumption keeps increasing, the desire is to have more of it, to have it faster, to have it cheaper, to have it better, to have it in newer ways. The list is absolutely endless. And as we see software eating up everything around the world, it's important to see where all this might lead us to in order to prepare us as an industry which actually prepares the world for that future as to what it means. A world where if you say something is difficult, that means it might take you 7 days. And if you say it's impossible, then maybe it's a month. But whatever it be, the craving is insatiable, and the desire to get more is what drives productivity, it is what drives success, and arguably, it is what drives progress today. And is this age of creativity, consumption, and craving already upon us? The other key dimension is that this era is one where we are talking about the future of everything, because everything is changing. And therefore, when we reimagine, we have to it's not enough to reimagine only some facets of life. It's important to remember that this is about the future of everything. We have therefore put together a whole array of speakers from very different segments who will share, and very different sectors, diverse sectors, who will share their perspectives on what is changing around us. The BFSI, media and entertainment, sports, and leadership, of course. Some of the big changes in leadership across the world have one thing in common. Digital has played a big role in their ascendance to leadership. These disruptive waves impact industries in more ways than one, as they have even in politics, and this angle will be covered extensively, especially the question of when you reimagine, how do you reimagine? And how does one go about even trying to reimagine the future? It would be even worthwhile to look at differences in the pace at which the change is happening. It's not happening at a uniform pace, and one could even talk about digital attackers, digital followers, and digital laggards. These are terms which are all floating around. It may be worthwhile to look around the world, look at the world around us, and classify the different segments into some of these areas to understand better the diverse nature of the change and the diverse pace at which the change is happening. 25 is also the age when the human body is at its prime, bubbling with energy and enthusiasm. We have no doubt that the kind of fair that has been planned in this leadership forum is such that you would have no difficulty in drawing deep and building up the energy to really experience every single part of this program and to be able to reap the rich harvest of knowledge that is all around you in this event and optimize your time here. After this inaugural session, we have Ms. Neelam Dhawan, who is the Vice President Global Industries and Strategic Alliances at Hewlett-Packard, who is also the chair of the NASSCOM India Leadership Forum 2017, to address all of us in greater detail about how the next 2.5 days will pan out. So please stand by for that. At the end of the day, 25 is just a number. How old you are is how old you think you are. But even as we grow over the years, one thing has remained common, that what brings us together here is a shared bonhomie and a time to link up and meet with old friends and make new ones. So once again, a toast to the spirit of 25, to the spirit of NILF, and to the spirit of bonhomie. And I welcome all of you to this grand event in Mumbai. Thank you very much for being here. I'd now like to request Mr. C.P. Gurnani, the chairman of NASSCOM and the CEO and MD of Tech Mahindra, to address us. C.P.
So, hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, all the speakers, thank you, all the delegates, thank you, all the sponsors, and thank you, all the NASSCOM team, which has created such a beautiful event. I know that Neelam has chased many of us, including me, to make sure that she couldn't make the event bigger, so she has made the event grander. So anyway, thank you, Neelam. So some of us had a press conference, both R. Chandrasekhar and I had a press conference just before this inaugural speeches. And we shared with the press that NASSCOM has come a long way since we started NILF, that it now is $155 billion industry, that this industry has grown even in, for the financial year 17, our estimates are that it will grow at 8.7%. We also shared that it continues to be one of the largest employers, and that while the revenue growth has been 8.7%, the employee growth has been about 5%. And I thought the press will be very, very happy. I believe that they were not only very, very happy, they were ecstatic. So, but they wanted the guidance for the future, which only says that it is not only the press. All of us have the same common question: what future holds for us? So 25 years, great. Now tell us what the next 25 looks like. I mean, I know that the Indian hobbies are, as they say, the astrology, Bollywood, and cricket, but I didn't want to be an astrologer. And when I gave those answers that we have been successful, we don't want to be complacent, and I tried to repeat what Andy Grove has said, only the paranoid survive, this was not sufficient because I had not given an exact number at what rate we will grow. Now, clearly, as we go around the conference, I can only give you a prelude to what is going to come. Because last night we had dinner and we had few of the speakers who joined us for dinner. And we did have one futurist out there. And I know Pablo and Mr. Pawar have already had that session. So there is one way of getting that answer with the press is that I do invite Pablo again. Right? And request Pablo, but except that I know that despite of his simplest of English, Pablo can be a little bit very descriptive. Now, but I thought it is, let me stay with the numbers. The numbers are that last year Gartner had projected a technology spend growth of 2.6%. For 2017, they have projected a growth of 5%. So, hopefully, all of us in this room know that we are the leaders, not only for leaders of future, but we are the leaders of technology, and that this 5% growth really means growth for the industry, growth for all of us. We all understand that what worked yesterday is not going to work today or tomorrow. We all know that. Similarly, going around with that room yesterday night for dinner, we had this young guy who had won the Oscar. And it took me a little while to figure out that there are two Oscars, one for that motion pictures and one for science and technology. But the reality is that this young guy won Oscar, Kiran, and I'm sure you will meet him. Kiran had won the Oscar for his new AI company, which was literally about, transferring facial movements or recognitions or, the patterns onto different people or different innate objects or the cartoons or whatever. Now think about it. I mean, Google on one end talks about, driverless cars. I mean, and it is complex. And particularly when the Google starts driving in India, I mean, we will realize how complex it is. So the point here is that we all know that the technology is shifting. That whether it is deep machine learning, whether it is AI, whether it is cognitive computing, whether it is blockchain, or no longer people talk about blockchain is equal to Bitcoin. Suddenly it is becoming disrupting retail, disrupting healthcare. And I honestly believe, and similarly when you go into, a lot of our NASSCOM members are international companies. And you look at their performances, not only what they're doing in India, but also globally. You look at some of these companies, their stock prices have been going up. The various slogans that we have all heard, whether it is AI first, mobility first, one other company would say cloud first, some company would actually come and tell you that it is DevOps first, somebody will say open source first. But the point here is that all these firsts are also translating into shareholder value. So the question for the Indian IT industry, as we go along, we would realize is that we would also have to reboot ourselves. So that's why when the conference team came in and they said, we are going to reinvent itself, we are going to reimagine ourselves, or we are going to rethink, I think it is very important. And I strongly believe that NASSCOM leadership will benefit a lot by interacting with all of you. Because today's learning is not about, learning from what Microsoft or an SAP or an Oracle or IBM is doing. It is also learning what is happening in the garages, what is happening in the startup world. So I think in this particular leadership forum, as you will notice that many of the people who are recreating the industry, for example, I mean, we had a session a little earlier where Philips is reinventing itself. It is no longer about only bulbs or, scanners. They are also talking about managed services. Similarly, a session that we will soon have, it's all about an industrial conglomerate, reinventing themselves. So I am very, very excited about the time that we all will spend together with you. We do strongly believe that this industry and many of us are excited about the future. We do realize that as a group of leaders, it also means that we need to, work together and reposition the Indian IT industry. And we all together, I promise you, are ready to reimagine the future. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. And I look forward to interacting with many of you over the next 2.5 days. Thank you. I'm going to invite Raman. All right, guys. This is the only time you will see Raman running. That is Mr. Raman Roy, our Vice Chairman.
Thank you, ZP. He made me run, man. It's always tough to come after these two things, and what do you talk about? So when I was told I was going to be the third speaker, I went to Neelam, who is the chairperson for this, and I said, can we re-engineer? I was still in the old mindset. He said, oh, you want to come before that? I said, yes. So, yeah, there's a dance. Why don't you join that? That I thought was not the best use of my weight and width. So I said, okay, let's reimagine this and let's try to complete the narrative for where we are. So to share my thoughts, I came up with the 4 S's to emphasize on the collaboration that we have to do. The first S is about skills. You heard some talk on the skills. In 2014, the global tech spend was 2.7 trillion USD, and the 2.7 by 2025 will reach 4 trillion. And this pace of change will be different, and the only differentiator to succeed in this will be the era of skills, in my opinion. We at NASSCOM are working with our member base to build a collaborative model for skill development and to see what this future of skills is and where the demands are and what we could do. The second S, startups. 4,750 startups in India. We stand at the number 3 position. And the startups are all about innovation. Our NASSCOM 10,000 startup program fosters the ecosystem and is contributing to building India for the next generation of companies, the next generation of consumers, the next generation of entrepreneurs. The third S is about security. In one of the meetings that we as NASSCOM had when we celebrated our 25 years of formation, we had the luxury of having the Honorable Prime Minister. And he told us to focus on the cybersecurity and the opportunity that that represents. So as NASSCOM and the Data Security Council of India, which is a body that was promoted by NASSCOM, we constituted a task force to develop a roadmap for what will it take to become a global hub for this cybersecurity. We got eminent leaders from within the industry. Mr. Pawar of NIIT led that effort for NASSCOM. We got people from the government, the industry, the academia, and we charted out the vision to grow the Indian cybersecurity products and services industry to $35 billion and create 1 million jobs in cybersecurity by 2025. And now that that report has been made, Data Security Council of India is now focused on making it into a reality and working out the next steps. The fourth S, I had to make it an S, right? Software eating the world. The sheer fact that the distinction between the hardware and the software is disappearing, and everything is now being sold as a service, a composite aspect of service. This trend will impact the industry and other sectors in a bid to increase the efficiency and improve the quality and output. NASSCOM is working with its members to catalyze the digital disruptions through focused centers of excellence. We've created multiple centers of excellence where we are incubating and learning on these new technologies. We've already launched COEs in the IoT and data analytics, and as we learn more, we will do more. So you thought you get rid of me because the 4 S's are done. No, you don't. Then I added a C, because I think it is essential for us to work to use this C, which is what binds the 4 S's together, which is the collaboration. Silos don't work. Silos have never worked before. They are not going to work into the future. And now, in the world of tomorrow, the shortcomings will be even more pronounced. The challenge will be about marrying diversity with capability to deliver the goals that we have. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we collaborate into the future to initiate that collaboration, have a great time at NILF 2017, and reinvent, reimagine, not just re-engineer. Thank you very much.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, three powerful speakers. We had RC, CP, and Raman giving you an amalgamation of futuristic ideas and thoughts that will truly reimagine technology. With that, we now come to the next segment of what we have lined up today, and that is the Social Innovation Awards. So now I'm going to invite on stage all three of them, along with Ganesh Natarajan, the chairman of NASSCOM Foundation and Global Talent Track, to join us on stage. So can we have RC, CP, Raman, and Ganesh Natarajan joining us? I'm going to request Ganesh to address the NASSCOM Social Innovation Honors and also present the awards.
Thank you very much. First of all, real pleasure for us to be here from NASSCOM Foundation. As all of you know, this is one significant initiative we always showcase in the first part of this of the NILF. And as CP rightly said, I mean, there could be many ways of looking at the future of technology. But one thing we're very sure about is that this institution, NASSCOM, the industry will be about people. And we are delighted that you have done so much for the people of this country in the last few years. I mean, just to give you some numbers, this year we will be investing almost 40 crores of your money, which is roughly 10 times more than it was 3 years ago. We'll be impacting directly close to 1.6 lakh citizens of our country, directly, and maybe another 14 lakh indirectly. Just to give you a sense of where your money is going when you give it to NASSCOM Foundation or work through NASSCOM Foundation, the National Digital Literacy Mission, what is called NDLM, which was one of the Prime Minister's schemes, almost 35 companies in this room are supporting us, 160 centers, lakhs of people who have been digitally certified at this point of time. Skills, which of course Raman talked about as a big agenda for the industry. Today we have multiple companies supporting the skilling movement. At this point, I'm glad to announce that in this year itself, close to 85,000 young people who would not otherwise have access to skills are being skilled through various initiatives of NASSCOM Foundation. We are also very pleasantly supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's a $5 million grant to revive the public libraries in this country. I mean, there are close to 106 public libraries revitalized through digital technology in 25 states that is currently happening. Beyond that, of course, the normal work that we do continue. We have a very successful partnership with Vodafone Foundation, which is what is called the Mobile for Good, which kind of talks to our theme of using digital technology for the common man. So applications, in fact, we disbursed almost 1.6 crores across multiple applications, 550 applications of mobile technology, which brings me to where we are today, that apart from all the big initiatives we do, one thing that gives us tremendous pride year on year is the National Social Innovation Forum. We have an outstanding jury that works with us for almost 4 months to just identify tech for good. Who are those NGOs, small social enterprises, large companies who are actually impacting India through technology? And this year again, in fact, cumulatively, we probably had over 550 applications which have been sifted through in the last 9 years. 33 outstanding applications this year, and you will see some of them being honored. And more important, not just the money, not just the mentoring, I think it is the ability for us to contribute to the social sector in this way that makes the National Social Innovation Forum come alive. I'd like to call out Emphasis and Accenture Labs, who have been supporting us this year in the Social Innovation Forum. And before we recognize and award the people who are have come here today, I'd just like to say that, look, any one of you who'd like to work for the country in the social sector through NASSCOM Foundation, we'd love to speak with you anytime in the next 3 days. In fact, there are opportunities in digital literacy for as little as maybe 6 to 7 lakhs a year to make a difference. So whether your theme is skills, digital literacy, financial literacy, the DigiDhan movement of the Prime Minister, whether it's public libraries or working with disabilities, I think there's a huge opportunity in front of you. And thank you very much again for all your support. So with that, I'll hand it back to the compere.
Thank you, Ganesh. So without further ado, I'm going to announce the winners of this year's NASSCOM Social Innovation Forum. The winners with the best ICT-led social innovations in the area of primary and secondary education, and recipients of a catalytic grant of rupees 10 lakhs on stage to receive their award. The Emphasis Education Honors goes to Mobile Learning Apps for Literacy and Numeracy by M. Guru. Can we have the team from M. Guru up on stage to collect their award? Gentlemen, to the center. Mobile Learning Apps for Literacy and Numeracy by Guru. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the first winner of the evening. Thank you and congratulations. Following Guru, we have Story Weaver by Pratham Books. Can we have the team from Pratham Books up on stage? Let's keep the applause going, ladies and gentlemen. The third winner in this category, Arivu Disha by Headstreams. Can we have the team coming up? Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. These are not simple awards. These people are making a real change to life and society as you all know it. The winner of the accessibility category, recipient of the Emphasis Honours and Catalytic Grants is BleeTech Innovations Private Limited for Blee, wearable device for the hearing impaired. BleeTech will also receive technology mentoring by Accenture Labs. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for BleeTech Innovations. The winner in the next category of ICT-led social innovation and environment is Shelter Associates for their One Home, One Toilet program. They're also recipients of the Accenture Labs advisory support. Please put your hands together for Shelter Associates. The next winner in the primary healthcare category is Incredible Devices for their catheter reprocessing system. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Incredible Devices. In the livelihood and agriculture category, the winner is Nubisol Technologies Private Limited for their innovation Krishi Suchak. Nubisol Technologies Private Limited. The next winner in the other social issues category is Grameen Foundation for their program Integrating Mobile Financial Education and Services for Financial Inclusion in India. They are also recipients of the Accenture Labs advisory support. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Grameen Foundation. And finally, the winner in the category of Best ICT-led Social Innovation by an early stage innovator, Mr. Andrew S., to receive the award for his innovation, Physio Fast Heal. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Andrew S. Thank you, gentlemen. A hearty congratulations to the winners of this year's NASSCOM Social Innovation Forum. These projects and innovations are champions of tech for good, reinforcing the fact that technology can bring about a lasting change. We also encourage you to interact with the innovators over the course of the next 3 days. And if you would like to reach out to them personally, please feel free to get in touch with the NASSCOM Foundation team. Please join me once again in congratulating all the winners of the NASSCOM Social Innovation Forum Awards 2017. Thank you, gentlemen, for a wonderful inaugural. I would now like to request our esteemed speakers and audience to get ready for the next session. I hope the inaugural has set stage for what is to follow. What is so special about this conference? And to find out, we now have Ms. Neelam Dhawan, VP Global Industries and Strategic Alliances, APJ, HP Enterprise, and Chair, NILF 2017. Neelam Dhawan has been the Vice President for Global Industries, Strategic Alliances, and Inside Sales for APAC Japan, effective November 2016. She is responsible for building capacities through development of programs and solutions, enhancing selling capabilities and operational excellence, and managing the P&L for these customer segments across the region. She also manages the key strategic alliances and OEM partnerships. May I request her to take over and address this august gathering.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us. This is indeed one of the most important conferences which I think is happening across the world. And thank you for your time. I appreciate your being here. Digital disruption. It's something we have talked about for the last 4 years. And when we look at digital disruption, we have covered quite an intensive discussion around it. Excuse me. The slides are not changing. Hello? Yeah, there we go. So digital disruption has been a topic which we have discussed in the last 4 years. And I must say, we have done a very comprehensive discussion around innovative thinking and provided strategic guidance to a lot of participants. This year, we are revisiting the wave of disruption, but with a fresh pair of eyes. It's not enough to re-engineer, banish the thought. Reimagine instead. And we are going to spend the next few days discussing this. Reimagine a world where complexities, uncertainties, including resource deployment, will take an altogether new turn. This time, and to differentiate, the focus will be even stronger on the how aspect of it. At the end of it, I'm quite certain that all of us will have a definitive call of action relevant to our organization. We talked about 25 years, RC talked about it, but you know, few summits just gain scale, grow in importance and relevance. Very few conferences have done that in 25 years. And I would say NILF 2017 is a culmination of what we learned, what we are going to do in the last 25 years. So, you know, it's interesting. When I look back, 25 years ago, the IT industry in India was $100 million. We were very proud of the fact that the industry had grown to be $100 million. And this year, we are talking about 150 billion. 154 billion is the actual number. So 25 years, it took us to go from 100 to 150 billion, 100 million to 150. That's a big number. What we have for you to celebrate 25 years is a talk about all 25 unmatched technologies, 25 insightful sessions, 4 times 25, that is 125 inspiring speakers, and 25 hours of thrilling action. So there's a lot of action in the next 3 or 2.5 days. When I look at our agenda for the next 2.5 days, to be precise, as we already did some deep dives today morning, let me share with you what's on store. Today, we are discussing the overarching idea, learning how technology benefits your business. We have some outstanding speakers later in the day, as well as some very good panel discussions, which will show you how relevant this conversation on digital reimagine is in the new world of digital. Tomorrow, we will be looking at scale the digital inflection point and learn how to from practitioners who have already done this. There are lots of exciting breakout sessions to go through the agenda and select the sessions that you would like to join us. And finally, on day 3, take a peek into the future. Actually, I'm most excited about day 3 as we have created a very interesting session looking at futurists, venture capitalists, technology industry trends, and some very young achievers. You may like to learn from them as well as support them. I'm sure you will be happy to hear what we have put together. And of course, all this cannot happen without some fun. We have designed some great experiences at the event to make your 3 days meaningful and a lot of fun. After loads of mind-stimulating sessions, the fun and networking begins each evening at the grounds outside. Network till you drop is our mantra. There is also an after-party on 16th for the nightcap if you want to join. I cannot miss out the Tech Cafe, which has been structured outside, and you can take time to see it. As technology overtakes our lives, the Tech Cafe showcases some interesting experiences, and each day there will be different experiences. So please block some time on your calendar to visit the Tech Cafe and experience the future, the virtual reality, the artificial intelligence, and IoT, really cool technologies of future. This slide has not changed in 25 years. Of course, the pictures have changed. In all these 25 years, this is the only common slide. Here at NILF, you get to hear from the very best, and all about the latest ideas, best practices, innovative solutions, out-of-box thinking that's doing rounds. So, as you make your presence felt, I encourage you, you are here, but do use the solutions which we have put together for you for online, and experience is just a click away. You will be able to keep yourself updated on the trends, on the discussions which are happening, even in sessions which perhaps you would have missed. I can't end my giving you an overview without saying thank you. An event like this requires phenomenal support, and my special appreciation to all our sponsors, the core committee that helped with the speakers, the NASSCOM Executive Council led by CP and RC for their leadership, and the NASSCOM team that did all the heavy lifting. A special thank you to all of you guests for making it here and making this conference in perhaps the most successful you would have seen in the recent past. I just want to show you this last slide, which says what all goes on behind a conference of this kind, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. And I would like to introduce our opening speaker. Our opening speaker actually needs no introductions, and he is building India's fastest growing startup. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Mukesh Ambani.
Mukesh Ambani.
Firstly, thank you for being here. I understand it's really a busy time for you. You know, there's so many questions which everybody wanted to ask you, and I thought I'll take this liberty to ask on behalf of the industry, as well as many of our customers and partners. Let me start by the first question. You have said in your recent AGM speech that in the next 20 years, the world will collectively achieve more than what has been achieved in the last 300 years. How do you see this shaping up?
Well, Neelam, let me first thank you for this opportunity. This is a particular privilege for me to be at NASSCOM. I think I have a lot of respect for the Indian IT industry, and this being the 25th year, I still remember the 90s, where my friend Pramod Mahajan used to say that Abhi, India is known only for two things, IT and beauty. That was the time that we had won Miss Worlds on a continuous basis. And on that foundation, what an industry all of you have built. It's $160 billion today. So my congratulations to all of you. You know, I really think that we are at a very exciting time in human history. And the way I think about it, and now this is said, but I think about it simply in terms of what does the fourth industrial revolution mean for us, right? So if we think about the first industrial revolution, that was really coal and steam that taught us mechanization of production. The second industrial revolution, which was electrical power and oil, gave humanity the tools of mass production and distribution. The third industrial revolution, which was electronics, automation, and what I call siloized software, right, gave us the basics of efficiency and productivity. And now we are just at the doorsteps of the fourth industrial revolution, which is convergence of the physical, digital, and biological sciences. So when you have everything converging, I've understood very recently, only 3 or 4 years ago, the meaning of the word exponential. And I think that all of you being in the IT industry understand exponential. And I think that we are on the verge of exponential change. And with this convergence that is happening in the world, we have the opportunity to solve big problems in a short time. And that is why I say that in the next 20 years, humankind can achieve much more than what we have in the last 300 years. And it's a very exciting time.
Yes, and I tend to agree with you because this is exciting times on how technology is impacting all of us. You also said data is the new oil and intelligent data is the new petrol. What made you say that? What were you thinking?
Well, I think that at the foundation, Neelam, of the fourth industrial revolution is connectivity and data, right? The convergence of all the sciences is really brought about by connectivity and data. And yes, to my mind, data is the new natural resource. And fundamentally, you have to have a lot of people to generate data and use data. So in that sense, India is naturally blessed with its 1.3 billion people. Data in its raw form, right, is useful, but for it to have real value, it has to be processed into intelligence. And we are really at the beginning of that era where data is really the new oil. And when we bring all these convergent technologies, the benefit that it brings to society is immense. And that is why I really believe that data is the new oil, and India, just with its talent and young population, in this natural resource will have a competitive advantage.
And Mukesh Bhai, when you look at this, how is Geo accelerating the digital drive of India within this framework?
Well, Geo was conceived, right, at a time where we all knew that the world is fast digitizing. And if the Indian economy doesn't have access to next generation digital infrastructure, we will be left behind, we will be outcompeted, and we will not stand a chance to prove ourselves in the world. In 2015, India was 155th out of 230 countries in mobile broadband access. And we believe with the investment in Geo and the concurrent action of the industry as a whole, spurred by Geo, India can easily be in the top 10 countries in the world in terms of broadband access. And to our mind, every Indian has a right to live his life to his full potential, and digital life will be a part of that in the coming years. And given that, we think data is the oxygen of this digital life, and no Indian should have this oxygen in scarcity, in quantity, or should not have the right quality, or should not have the right affordability. So Geo really stands for affordability, quality, and quantity for all Indians at all times. And with the initial response that we got from Indians, we are absolutely overwhelmed.
Absolutely. It's been one of the most phenomenal launches that India has seen in 2016, and all of us are using the Geo technology already. So it has been phenomenal. And a little known fact which I'll share with you is some of the technologies which Geo adopted in setting up the network and setting up the whole digital solutions were perhaps being used for the first time, and that innovation, taking the risk on the latest and the greatest technology, Geo has done, and it's been an incredible journey from technology perspective. But then, what are the next plans for Reliance in this digital era?
Well, we are, from our point of view, the way we see digitization of the world, as you said, Neelam, we are at the bleeding edge of technology. And when you put young Indians together, right, and give them an opportunity, in my experience, they have always outperformed and out-delivered. So what we now have is a network platform. It's the world's first all-IP platform that covers now over 95% of Indians. We really think that as the world digitizes, with the opportunities that we see to solve big problems, the next step is partnership. And I was just talking with Saurabh and Harish Bhai before in terms of saying that, great, this has been a great journey for $260 billion. Yes. And what do we want to achieve in the next 10 years? And I was telling them that actually Trump might be a blessing in disguise.
Why do you say that?
It will focus the Indian talent, it will focus the Indian IT industry to focus on solving problems in India. And I think that the domestic market, is huge. Within that, I think that what the Geo platform offers and what we look forward to is really partner with the next generation to really solve problems for India, to improve quality of life for our people, to make sure that our industries are more productive, and to, again, not only, as Harish Bhai just told me, that this is reimagine and not re-engineer.
Yes.
Right? So fundamentally, it's like our view is that we partner, and in this is all about building the digital ecosystem. No one company can do it on its own. Yes. And we really have to adopt the next-gen technology. India has to be the capital of real implementation of blockchain to build the trust economy in terms of the internet. We have the opportunity really to make sure that we adapt artificial intelligence and natural language processing. We adapt drones in terms of our own logistics. So I think that the opportunities are immense, and we now have the infrastructure to do it in our own market and make India one of the biggest software markets in the world.
That really is exciting, and it brings me to the next question. Planet of apps. If we can take the liberty of saying so, how do you see this transforming the way we live and rendering mobile as the most important device for IT?
Well, to my mind, mobile computing, right, is the defining technology of this century. Yes. And when you combine mobile computing with the progress that we have made in connectivity and with machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence, right, and the whole natural language processing. In fact, we were, again, just talking about this with Saurabh Bhai, coincidentally, in terms of saying that, like, what happens to millions of Indians? How will they access information on the internet? And it can be your own language. You can speak to your mobile phone, and there you are. You don't need to type. You don't need to do anything. So this whole combination that is coming about is, again, going to redefine the quality of information and services that will be available to ordinary Indians so that they have access to opportunities and information which was impossible before.
So, Mukesh Bhai, this brings me to the next question, and it's truly two questions. Whenever I visit your campus, I see so many young people, so many millennials working for you. And the way they use technology also is perhaps very different. And when I look at, they're consuming technology also differently. So how do you work with the new generation so well? Because many of us are working with millennials and they have different asks and different usage. And how do you think they are going to consume the technology tomorrow?
Well, I think that having twins who are 25-year-old helps, because being with them and their friends, like, figures out it closes a generation gap. But more importantly, I think that when we are in the engineering, technology world, like we have, and we have visions of ourselves, right? I always remind our technology people in terms of saying that, remember, at the end of the day, technology has to adjust to human beings and not the other way around. And I always tell our young people a particular story. And like It goes like, saying that there was this great software guru, technology, PhD, all the great tech nerds that we have, and a really ordinary Gujarati from Gujarat on a plane, both sitting next to each other. And this guy is in awe of this guru and says, so the guru says, I am a technology guy, but chalo, let's play a game. I'll be generous to you, that you can ask me one question, I'll ask you one question. And whoever cannot answer the question, if you don't know the question, you pay it, like you pay us. And because I am the great technology guru, for whatever question I don't know, I'll pay you 100 rupees. You pay me 10 rupees. This poor Guju looked at this guy and said, okay, we'll do that, like you're a great technology guy. So he says, okay, you start. So he said, yeah, this is the phone in your hand. Tell me, like in 1969, like for NASA, what was the power of the computers and what's the power in your phone? And asked him a complicated question. This guy said, I don't know. So he says, okay, here, 10 rupees. So he gave him 10 rupees. So he took it. Now, fundamentally, the Guju had to ask the same question. So he asked, okay. So he said, okay, tell me, like, what is that animal that climbs a mountain on 4 legs and comes down on 3 legs? So this software engineer, like, went on, says, what is it? What is it? Like, he took his phone, Googled everything, this, that, and said, don't know. So he took 100 rupees and gave it to the guy. This guy took the 100 rupees, went to sleep, saying, no, this is not fair, right? You have to tell me. You just can't go to sleep. Tell me what the right answer is. After all, I am the engineer, PhD, and all this stuff. So the Guju took another 10 rupees and gave it to him, says, I don't know. So within this, I think that the big lesson that all of us engineers and tech gurus have to understand, that ultimately there is common sense and the power of the common man, and technology has to adjust to human beings. All young people have to understand, at the end of the day, we serve society and we serve that common man, and we should always be aware that he's far smarter than each one of us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. This is indeed a remarkable story. We will remember it too. Going on to look at India as an economy, India was once a leading economy in the world. Today again, the world has started taking note of India's potential for growth in coming decades. Can India become the change leader for the world?
Absolutely. I think that we have all the ingredients of leading back in this new age that the world is going to go through. And just let me give you one simple example in terms of change. And it really is on the work that my friend Nandan Nilekani has done in terms of the Aadhaar identity system. So because we have Aadhaar, where now over 1.3 billion people have individual identity, right? That helps multiple industries. When we started Jio, right, and we set a target for ourselves in terms of saying that we will acquire 100 million customers in the shortest time, right? Even we didn't imagine that we would do it in months.
Yes.
Right? In terms of that, we just set ourselves a goal, and if it was not for Aadhaar, right, Aadhaar enabled us to acquire 1 million customers a day, which is unheard of in the industry as a whole. You take that one step forward with the digital payment ecosystem that we are fast developing. Right? The biggest change that can happen, and I see that happening in the next 12, 18 months, is that we can change from, and so far India has been a high value, low volume loan economy. So loans and financial resources were only available to a few people. We have all witnessed, right? Ordinary people who perfectly deserve some finance, right? Any of 30,000. And I see that changing primarily on the basis of technology, where now based on your own behavior, you can get a loan on your mobile phone in 10 to 15 seconds. And millions of people, so from just high value, low volume, we will move to high volume and low value. And this then actually is the biggest change that you bring about. And I can give you many such examples, but I think that we are again at the doorsteps of change in terms of adapting technology and adapting it in such a way that it actually changes lives of millions of people.
And I think once activity happens at grassroots level, we should see the economy grow far rapidly than what we have seen in the last few years that has happened. But in a country like ours, what is the key challenge you see as we go on this journey of digitalization? We saw demonetization just troubled everybody and we were held back. And now when we look at how everyone has taken to the payments solutions which have come up, how even in the rural area we see them talking about the various mobile payments which they are able to do. One would think that was a blessing in disguise in bringing everyone to look ahead. But there could be something which can challenge us and put us aback. What do you think are the key challenges this country may face in this whole process of digitalization?
Well, I think the most important thing, and to my mind, India has a big advantage in this new world in terms of digitization. It's very important to be open. It's very important to have partnerships and not be closed. So that's really a strength for India, and we should really build on this strength, continue to be open and never think like, while whatever the world trends will be, right, in terms of the world might want to build walls around, I think it is very important for us not to be influenced by that, but to make sure that we are always open, always connected, and clearly, in my view, we will find solutions. There will be issues with security and privacy, but as long as we are clear of our end objective, right? So if we focus on the goal, we will overcome the obstacles of security and privacy. They will always be important, but the goal of development and the goal of improving lives of hundreds of millions of people is the opportunity that we have.
In fact, when we look at all the surveys in 2016, security comes right on top. And just before you arrived, we did talk about security being one of the biggest concerns and area which all of us need to address. And we are going to talk a lot about it next few days about it. Now, I wanted to change the track of questions because at NASSCOM, we have been nurturing new companies and startups. And we have a goal to nurture 10,000 startups. And currently, we have around 4,500 startups. And when I look at Geo, it's perhaps the largest startup this country has. And, of course, it's a very big and very expensive startup for startups to able to afford. But when you look at these entrepreneurs and young people who are starting new organizations, what would you advise them to do? What is your advice for the new entrepreneurs on the block?
Well, my advice to more than advice, I'll share what I have learned. I think advice to an entrepreneur is not appropriate. So I can only share, like, The first piece was really taught to me by my father in terms of saying that, so he says, and he first gave me when I had just come back from Stanford Business School. So I said, what is going to be my job? Please describe what do I do now?
Roles and responsibilities.
In terms of roles and responsibilities, absolutely. So he says, Acha, am I giving you if you're a job, then you're a manager, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you'll figure out what you want to do. So I'm not going to tell you anything, figure out what you want to do. Right? The second piece that I think I learned is that as an entrepreneur, right, it's very important to find a problem that you want to solve, that you're passionate about. Right? There is no, and this is the same thing that, in fact, Professor Sharma at UDCG, I was blessed to have him, he'd always say that I am not going to give you a list of problems and then you can go and work on anything. You find a problem. And then I will grade you on the quality of the problem that you find, and then I'll grade you on the quality of solution that you actually do. So the same rules apply for an entrepreneur, that it's not solving problems, it's first finding problems. Once you find the problem, right, then you solve it. The third thing that I've learned is that, and we've now institutionalized it at Reliance, is that you have to create societal value, right? You have to solve a problem which actually does good in some way. And that has to be the main objective of the business. And financial returns are actually a byproduct. If you focus only on financial returns, right, chances are that you would not really become great and solve your own passion. The other piece that I have learned is failures are normal, right? With all the success that one sees, people, even in my own case, don't see how many times I have failed before I succeed. So they are just a step before you succeed. So never get disheartened by failures. Learn from them, but never give up. Two non-negotiables for me are, one is treat your investors' money. And this was early on ingrained into us at Reliance, is that we had taken money from small investors, that treat your investors' money even more carefully than your own money. And second is, you cannot do anything without the right team. And it is very important to align the team passionately to your own mission. And finally, an entrepreneur is always positive. He's an optimist, and he proves, there are lots of cynics, lots of negative people around, but an entrepreneur spreads positive energy. That's really what I have learned.
So Mukesh Bhai, this is really, really very interesting comments, because I really think the 5 things you said is to be passionate about something which is really going to transform, have the right talent, have the right positive approach, treat the money, which is your investors' money, very, very carefully. I think these are good guidance which the entrepreneurs of today will hope to carry with them and learn from you. With that, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your taking your time to talk to the industry and to all our speakers.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. That fireside chat, which was a true slice of life. Open connections, partnerships. We can't let you go. We have to hand over a memento. Neelam, if I can request you to come back on stage. We have to thank you. There you go, oil versus petrol, degrees versus common sense, all of this in that discussion. Thank you so much for such deep insights and incredible thoughts. As a token of our appreciation, we'd like to request Neelam to hand over a memento to... Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your hands together for that absolutely amazing fireside chat. And Neelam, Thank you so much for doing that so well. Well, well, well. What a way to start the sessions. With that, we come to the guest CEO keynote, our next session, Six Sigma to Fast Failure, transforming to an organization that embraces turning small-scale mistakes into future productivity. I'd like to invite on stage CP Gurnani, Chairman NASSCOM and CEO and MD Tech Mahindra. CP is going to be chairing this session. He will be in conversation with Bill Rue, CEO, GE Digital, who I'd like to request to come on stage. Can we invite Bill Rue on stage? CP is the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Tech Mahindra, an accomplished business leader, a rich career spanning over 35 years. His inimitable style of leadership, combined with his sharp focus and customer experience, has helped Tech Mahindra emerge as one of the leading digital IT solution providers of India. A receiver of numerous awards, he was also recently awarded the Best CEO of the Year at the Forbes India Leadership Awards 2015. Also added to the bucket was Asia One Global Indian of the Year Technology 2016. On April 6, 2016, CP was appointed Chairman of NASSCOM for 2016-17. With that, I'd like to request the session chair to introduce the speaker and the topic. CP, over to you.
Gentlemen, please welcome Bill Rue!
Oh, there he is. Sorry. Sorry.
They had me waiting back.
All right, okay, good. Now, I thought I lost you.
Hardly.
All right, guys, I mean, I know we had an interesting session with Mukesh Bhai, where Mukesh Bhai is now running one of the largest startups in India. And obviously, when Neelam throws challenges, and this time she is the conference chair, so she had all right to throw all the challenges. So I wanted to bring to you a global CEO who is running the biggest startup in the world. So, and that's how we got Bill Rue out here, and thank you, Bill, for accepting that invitation. So guys, let's... So I did walk into his office about 7 months ago, and there was this copy of an advertisement which says, the digital company that is also an industrial company. Now, GE, when did it change? And if the copy of the digital advertisement, the advertisement of GE is the digital company that's also an industrial company, I can only tell you is that it has happened because Jeff did the right job of hiring Bill as a chief digital officer. Now, that was many years ago. And for all who keep track of GE, in a lot of ways, people keep track of GE, sometimes for Six Sigma, sometimes for, them divesting a part of the business, and sometimes in NASSCOM, that who is this another, friend we are getting in NASSCOM and why are they not the members? So, I mean, we keep track of GE. So this is where when you start reading about GE, you realize that Bill is smart. Bill says he's not the chief digital officer. It's actually Jeff Immelt is the chief digital officer. So great. I mean, we love you for that. I mean, next time I will go and make Anand Mahendra chief digital officer. So anyway, all of you I know are very smart at searching on Google, so you know everything about Bill. But I did discover a few nuggets. One is, the guy lives in a nice house in California. He loves the wine so much that his whole house is a winery. So guys, I mean, I'm looking forward to an invitation. And for all those guys who are going to be around, because Bill is spending the evening tonight with us, I mean, do try and get an invitation. Right?
You got it.
And there's another thing some of his colleagues, particularly Tony, has told me, that Bill's favorite song is what everybody in the GE knows him for, Born to be Wild. So I don't know if the startups are run by wild people or the wine people, but anyway, Bill, it's going to be fun talking to you. You created the fastest startup, a 6 billion startup, and I'm actually not going to do all the Q&A. I want to let Bill speak and let Bill speak whatever he wants to speak. And if there are things that are uncovered, I want to actually unleash all of you to ask him the questions. Is that okay, Bill?
That's perfect.
All right, good. So guys, let's welcome Bill.
Thank you, CP. Thank you. So I'm going to just sort of go through a bit of a presentation with you. I think hopefully we can bring that up. You know, what I thought I would do is talk about being a digital industrial. I want to thank CP and the NASSCOM board for allowing me to do this, and it's a real privilege to be here. You know, if you look at why GE is a 130-year-old plus company, the thing you can think about is this, that it reinvents itself. In fact, I would say that if you go back to the 90s, we have a strong relationship with many of the members of NASSCOM because GE was deeply involved with the idea of thinking through outsourcing and coming to India and generating deep partnerships with many great companies who are sitting in the audience, including Tech Mahindra. So for us, we are reinventing ourselves. I want to tell you why, because I think for this group, your biggest opportunity in the world today is understanding this and figuring out how you're going to help the world to do this. Because I will tell you today, we are inventing it because nobody knows the recipe for doing this. And in the same way in the 90s, you reinvented the idea of outsourcing and the idea of what your companies have become that allowed it to go from $100 million to $155 billion. I think that this is a bigger opportunity than that ever was. And if you begin to look, the numbers are staggering in terms of the opportunity to change the industrial world and automate it. And people talk about it as the trillion-dollar opportunity in the next decade, okay? So what I want to talk about is our journey to become a digital industrial and not just an industrial. And here's the very simple thing that's going on in the world that I think you can think about, and that is that the world is under enormous productivity pressure today, the industrial world. The last decade, the consumer world, the social world, the mobile world have gone through their transformations. But the industrial world has, by and large, ignored the use of technology other than traditional, closed, proprietary solutions to automate. And when you look at the future, the thing that's interesting is that they could choose to do this because the world, the industrial world, operated at a 4% productivity year over year. That has gone, actually, the latest numbers show industrial productivity globally at about 0%. It continues to decline. And the reason why is this productivity is driven by two things. Either great GDP growth in a country and infrastructure spending goes up. I don't know that we can count on the world that happening today. You can hope, but hope is not a strategy. The other is in times of decline, you lean yourself into success. Now, you might ask yourself, the world, remember, it was 2008 when the decline occurred. Why didn't this occur in 2008? Why didn't it occur in 2009? Why didn't it occur in 2010? Because the industrial world leaned itself to success, 4%. And now we are in a world of 1% because there is no more leaning. So when you look at the world today, industrial firms are going to have to think about how to automate themselves differently. They're going to have to take this technology and use it in a way they haven't before, in the same way we've seen the consumer world change. And when you talk to your customers, though, the things you've got to understand that is going to be, for them, important is going to be things like delivering outcomes. They don't want to be cool. They don't just want technology. They want the outcomes. They're going to be thinking things like, how do I get the talent? They're going to be talking about how to make assets more productive. They're going to be talking about how do they build digital content? Who's going to help me? They're going to realize they've got to reform their IT. They've got to simplify their culture and bring agile development and speed into how they do things. And they have to work together differently. This is going to require help to begin to transform industrial firms from what they are today to what they need to become. Now, I think that I put on the last chart, consumers, not industrial. I believe there's one thing that can be learned from the consumer world, but I'm going to tell you about in a second why what's different in the industrial. But the thing we can learn from the consumer world, and this is my own personal take, is simply this. Not that it's cool, and not that it's social, and not that it's mobile. It's that they do one thing. What makes a successful consumer company is they take an asset and they make it more productive. Think about Google. Google happens to make advertising more productive than anybody else. And I'm not sure they like when I say that, but that's the truth. Why would you use Google as the form of pushing your advertising? Because it's the most effective mechanism to do it. Airbnb, Apple, Uber all take other people's assets and make them more productive. The thing we can learn from this world, because the industrial world is full of assets, is making them more productive. That is going to be at the center point of value creation in the industrial world. When you go talk to industrial companies, what they're really going to care about, who's going to help me make my assets more productive. The scary part for industrials, if they don't make their assets more productive, somebody else will. I think Mukesh Ambani, who's impossible to follow as a speaker, said something interesting about data being the new oil. Well, if I don't make my assets using the data more productive, someone else will use that oil, that data, and make the asset more productive. And they will be the most important part of the value chain, no longer the person who makes the asset. And by the way, you don't have to make the asset to succeed. The only thing that is important in this world, though, is assets are important. Connectivity is important. And you might ask a question, why now? Is that for the first time ever, we're seeing machines get connected in a way we never saw before. And by the way, we're actually seeing data get generated in a way we never saw before. If you go back a decade, GE was seeing very, very little data generated off its machines. By 2020, we are on a linear progression to be a million terabytes a day. A linear progression, we already know it will be there. Consumer is not industrial, meaning that you cannot just take the consumer technology and bring it over. And the key things I'd say is security is different, the volumes are different, how you're going to manage your data is different. An oil field is very different than a very nice, controlled data center. And compute at the edge is the most underestimated transition that will occur in the next decade. And I will tell you this, there will be more compute at the edge than in the cloud in the industrial world, and it could be by an order of magnitude. And you might say, oh, that can't be. Well, the minute you think about it, when your phone call drops, you get a little irritated, don't you? But I will tell you this, when your power plant stops generating electricity, the visual response, and you can't just tell your customer, hey, the network went down. I got to wait till the network, I'm going to reboot my network so then I'll start generating electricity again. Electricity is considered a basic human right in a way that we don't see other things. And just about everything in the industrial world is that way. I want to tell you a little bit about our strategy because I think every industrial firm will have a similar strategy. The first thing we see is for us, we think that the architecture is going to be different. For us, of course, we are driving this idea of the predicts-powered world and partnering with many of the folks who are in here. But we think the architecture is going to be very different. We think the architecture cloud to edge is going to be different than just the traditional cloud architectures. As we've done this, we've seen it is different. We think that the focus on AI is interesting, but I'm going to spend a minute on this. But digital twins are more important than just machine learning, as I'll talk about in a second. The apps are different. There is a whole new generation of apps around assets, services productivity, and manufacturing that is a great opportunity, by the way, for everyone in this room because the opportunity is these markets are bigger than the CRM market. I'd even contend they're bigger than the ERP market was. And everybody is starting from scratch with most of these applications. Finally, this is about ecosystems in a way that we have not seen before. And I think when you look at the future of this, this is an opportunity, a truly global opportunity to work together in a way that hasn't happened before. This is not going to be about one company like GE. This is going to be about many companies working together to create these kind of applications because it's different. And we look at it as we don't create the edge hardware devices. We're working with HPE. We're working with Dell. We're working with Intel. We're not going to create all the applications. We're creating some of them that we think are important. The reality is there's going to be opportunities in each of these parts of it to play together going forward. A few last thoughts and then we'll jump into the questions. Is machine learning is good but not good enough in this world. The idea we believe is going to be about a digital twin. And the idea of a digital twin is yes, machine learning is great about telling you the past. AI is great about understanding what has happened. But it is not really good enough to predict the future. And it's not going to help you do something that's really absolutely important, which is understanding the behavior of a power plant's great and what has happened. What's much more interesting is to run 1 million simultaneous simulations using physics-based modeling and then pick the best, most efficient solution. And the idea of modeling is actually a lot more important than the machine learning. And people have sort of missed that. And if you think about it, this is a true crystal ball. The machine learning explains what's happening. The modeling predicts the best, most accurate thing that can be done. And we have gone big time into this. And to give you a feel, on our wind turbines, and by the way, on our competitors' wind turbines, we can guarantee a minimum of 5% more electricity generated using software and modeling and a digital twin. And that has changed the nature of what we're selling. And now we have 640,000 digital twins running, and we optimize every single machine in this way. And we have about 55 different products we sell that now have these digital twins. I think this is going to be the center point because every customer is going to look to use modeling, and modeling will resurge in a way it hasn't before. Customers are going to have to rethink their organizations, everything from their IT into how they build a digital business. They're going to have to almost rethink their organization from scratch. This is what we've learned in the last 5 years. And what we've discovered is you can't be digital and industrial. You got to be digital industrial. What's causing this concern then for most of your customers is the fact that they're great at the industrial. The digital part, they're struggling with what to do and how to organize. And it will require a matrixed organization where the business CEOs are going to have to own pieces of this but they're going to need digital organizational structures to help them drive this change. And this may be harder than the technology itself, is to help to construct organization and culture in a pre-existing industrial firm to make the shift. The last few things I'd just tell you is this is true of any kind of industrial firm. Lixil makes bath and kitchen fixtures on a global basis. They are doing this. Pitney Bowes, who I see was a sponsor of this conference, big mail sorters and mailing machines, a little more complicated product. Schindler, 1.2 million elevators and escalators around the globe, and then probably the most complex machine on the planet may be a liquefied natural gas plant, and Razgas is doing it with that. So imagine going from everywhere from bath and kitchen fixtures and changing how you monitor, manage, install, all the way to doing the same thing at the most complex machines. This is a revolution that will occur globally as we see it. The last thing I just say is I want to thank all our partners, but I want to say in the same way that GE in the 90s partnered with many of you here, I'm here because I'm now partnering, and I think this is going to be led by many of the members of NASSCOM globally who are well positioned to help industrial firms. They just happen to have worked on the IT side, and they're going to have to learn how to work on the OT side in a new and different way. But it can be one of the biggest opportunities for the members of this group. And so when I look, we're working with many of you because in the end, we think that's what's going to happen to do implementation. And this is not going to be an out-of-the-box solution. I leave you with one thought. The idea of software development will resurge here in every industrial firm who will want to build digital twins, who will want to build analytics, and will need the capabilities of organizations like yourself to get there. And formulating yourself to be able to capture this opportunity is extraordinarily important as you move forward. Because when you think about it, this as a $1 trillion opportunity, every industrial firm on the planet is going to remake themselves, whether they make the product or they deliver the service that uses the product. Whether you're an airline, you generate power, you build aircraft, you sell jet aircraft engines, every one of these firms is going to remake themselves. What does this mean to us? We are, in fact, doing it for ourselves and saving billions of dollars. But in the end, we have built a $5.6 billion software business in selling these kinds of capabilities to our customers. And what we're learning from it is that these are large opportunities, and this is not something GE does. We aren't the ones who are going to deliver it, but we will enable them and teach them how, coupled with many of you. So I want to tell you it's been a real privilege, but in the same ways we worked in the 90s with many of you, you're going to find we're working with you into 2010. So I want to thank you, and now we'll take it over and turn it over to some questions.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thank you. So, I'm going to start off. It is really a question that many of us in the Indian IT industry is asking, that a GE, which is an industrial giant, and you as a CEO of GE Digital, grew from almost a handful of people in Silicon Valley to almost 20,000 people worldwide. We all also realize that from legacy to digital, it means transformation for us also. What would be your advice regarding people, regarding culture, regarding processes? How do we transform? What can we learn from you?
Yeah, I think that what we've learned is that there are two things that have been true of the company here. Look, the inside yourself this idea of speed. And I think that this is really hard for existing companies. In fact, that was the asset many of you had 20 years ago, is speed, right? You could go faster than the traditional firms. I think the thing that today exists is oftentimes that ability to go fast isn't there. So you know all the technical jargon, agile development, and so on. But I think the idea that's got to happen here is your customers are going to want to go fast, and they're going to want to believe you can help them go fast, and you're going to have to show you can do that. I think the second thing is scale. That's the only thing a big company has is scale. And what happens to most big companies in this transition is they actually don't take advantage of scale. They separate this out as if, okay, it's got to go fast, but the problem is that you're no better than a startup if all you do is speed. So the ability for you to take advantage of your scale is incredibly important. For us, what that's meant is that we are teaching each and every one of our industrial businesses how to be digital. And that is extraordinarily hard because they look and go, I sell 30 billion of jet aircraft engines. Why are you bothering me with this digital thing? And that part, you have to make sure you impress upon all your businesses, this is the future. Mukesh Ambani said it, it's the oil of the future. Does the business leader understand that? I also go back to what you said. I always do point out, Jeff is the Chief Digital Officer. He just has a better title than I do. And the reality is that what I really mean by that is Jeff understands he's got to make the shift. And so he's telling his business leaders, you're going to get on board. That cultural shift is extraordinarily hard. So the ability to go speed and scale simultaneously, I think, CP, this is going to be the hardest thing to figure out. How do you embed that into your company?
So there are a few questions which have come in, and the related question is, what are the top 3 distinct behaviors we should have to succeed in this transformation journey? The question, as you can read right here.
That's a great question. First of all, I think talent rules. Okay, I think that we are entering let me tell you on the GE story. We became really good at project management, and we lost a respect for coders. And I think in this new world, you've got to have the best development talent. Having somebody who can knock out, some visual basic capability is nice, but that's not when we talk about these kind of complex applications. You're talking about a whole new set of talent that understands cloud, mobility, and the ability to do analytics and large-scale data lakes and things like that. Do you really respect the talent? Do you bring in the right talent? I think talent has proven to be a particularly difficult shift. And there's some of the training you got to do, and then there's some of what you got to do to bring in new talent. And making that mix work is hard. Now, I think you guys are probably better suited to talent, but you got to ask yourself if you really are. I think the second piece of this is product management is actually the most difficult thing for a company to imagine. Everybody thinks they got a good idea. Everybody thinks they got the billion-dollar idea. It's having great product managers who can really go down to figuring out what it is you're going to build and take it to market. Let me say that, we built some products we thought were awesome, and we discovered that they had no market for them. And so now that we kind of got product management better, that's when we get to this power up, this renewables, the wind farm, ability to generate electricity. We couldn't sell the software, nobody would buy it because they didn't believe it. Now we give it away and suddenly everybody wants it. And actually we do better. And the last thing I will just say is this, that you can't separate out your non-digital people from your digital people. In the end, if you don't respect that I'm going to own data, what happens to the business leaders to go, if I got to collect data, how much is the disk storage going to cost? They don't say, my God, I have to take deep ownership of my data because it differentiates me from my competitors and my analytics are better. So I think these are the 3 things I would just throw out there. There's probably 20 others, but those 3 typically come up a lot.
Good. So I want to read another question which is really saying, reacting to your word around speed, how do you create a sense of urgency around digital, it's literally saying is
Yeah.
what makes an organization faster, better, stronger, and what have you done at GE Industrial to GE Digital?
Well, you have to, I'll be honest, I mean, my way of creating this sense of urgency is you have to have a threat. And you have to ask yourself, do you have a threat? I mean, for us, I'll tell you what the threat is. When you look at what Uber has done in the taxi business, it starts to move into the fact that they're now moving into more hard industrial products. It's easy for our people to say, oh, no one's ever going to know our product better than us. But the reality is that the chart I showed is, I've taken that down a lot more depth, which is the sense of urgency is, hey, if someone figures out how to take the data off our machines, by the way, we don't own that, the customer owns that, and the customer gives it to them, and they deliver more value, that is going to go after our major source of revenue, which is the services we provide around our machines. So that threat is real, and the ability to conceptually show it in other markets and say, look, we can deal with it now. I'm fortunate that I have the CEO of our business actually gets this, you know, that's CP. But the fact is, he gets it, and but being able to really show that threat and then lay out a scenario that says, here's a scenario if we do nothing, and here's a scenario if we get it wrong. And it's actually quite compelling. So who's the threat? Who's the new enemy? And I think most companies don't see it coming. In no way did the taxi business of the world say, hey, Uber's ever going to this. They said, we own medallions. It's $1 million a medallion in New York City, so unless you have a medallion, you can't be a taxi driver. Boy, were they wrong.
So I guess one of the interesting parts of your life, and which I believe you brought in as a culture also, you love music, you love karaoke, and I believe you have something to engage with your employees called Rock On.
Yeah.
Now, on one end you said you are capable of holding a thread. On the other end you have fun.
Yeah.
Which one is working better?
It's a balance between them. First of all, I'll just make this clear. I like wine and I like music. If you give me enough wine, I will sing you some songs. Okay? But
so here's the deal. Here is the deal, Tony. We are going to give him lots of wine tonight, and rest you have to manage.
So, so with that said, look, I think that it's a balance between the two. The one thing, you know, when I know when we came to Silicon Valley, people said, all the Illuminati in Silicon Valley, you know what I mean by that. They all said, you cannot, no one will ever come to work for GE Digital. No one is ever going to work there. Now, I was the only person in this space for 150 people, and I thought, my God, I'm going to be lonely for a long time to come. What if this doesn't work? And now the good news is, you know, we've hired 1,800 people just in San Ramon, but 5,000 people globally are coming to work from us. And they're coming from many of the companies who told my boss we'll never hire anybody. And I will tell you this, that there's one basic rule we found, is talent follows ideas. They want to know you're going to do something special. And I got to tell you, everybody we work with who's in the industrial space, they don't come in and say, I'm working on elevators. They talk about changing transportation in buildings. Now, this actually works. I think most people in Silicon Valley aren't really about the stock options. They are about working on high-end technology, working on the best ideas, and there is nothing cooler than working on a locomotive. And until you take a guy from Silicon Valley to see a locomotive built, you would imagine they love it. They can't believe it. They wear the hard hat, the hard shoes, and the fact is they can sense this change. So it's really the best thing is the idea of what we're doing to change the world, and that's what every one of your customers is going to care about.
All right, so let's go and change the world. So guys, let's say a big thank you to Bill, and remember, he has promised to sing, and the best has been reserved for the last. All right, guys, thank you.
Ben?
Thank you very much.
There you go, insights from the monster, GE. So as a token of our appreciation, we'd like to thank Bill. So, CP, I'd like to request you to hand over a memento to Bill. And CP, here's one for you for chairing that session. CP, I can't let you go. Okay, so to do the honors for our next segment, I'm actually going to invite CP back on stage. I'm also going to invite RC on stage to join CP. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our next guest, N. Chandra, a man who needs no introduction. I'd like to request RC and CP to hand over a trophy. N. Chandrasekharan, CEO, Tata Consultancy Services, Chairman Designate, Tata Sons, to address this August gathering. He's joined us here today. Natarajan Chandrasekharan, Chandra as he's popularly known, is the CEO and MD of Tata Consultancy Services, a leading global IT solutions and consulting firm, a position he has held since 2009. He's been appointed as the Executive Chairman of Tata Sons, and he will take charge from 21st February 2017. He was also appointed as Director on the Board of India's Central Bank, the Reserve Bank of India, in 2016, and under his leadership, TCS has generated consolidated revenues of US 16.5 billion in 2015 and 16. With over 378,000 consultants, TCS has become the largest private sector employer in India with the highest retention rate in global competitive industry. Well, do I need to say more? So over to you, over to both of you. Thank you.
NASSCOM, there was a saying that your name has to be Chandra if you want to be something. I mean, so I definitely know that my father gave me the right name. He called me Chandra Prakash. I mean, your father gave you the right name. He called you Chandra. We just met R. Chandrasekhar. We had we have a lot of Chandras. Forget it. I mean, I'm not going to go into Chandras. Right, so now here is a little bit of an anecdotal part. In Bangalore, we have normally a large gathering, a product enclave, and it's around that time that whatever, and Bangalore is in news these days. So, I mean, when we were having our product council meeting, around the same time this news broke out, and both R. Chandrasekhar and I were doing a press conference to talk about the growth of startups, product engineering, and the press kept asking us questions about Tata Sons and Chandra. Now, obviously, they were not the easiest questions to understand, particularly on a 26th of October 2016. Can I start by asking N. Chandra, when did it occur to him? Because to the press it had occurred on 26th October that N. Chandra will be the chairman, and Shireen is somewhere here, and I remember Shireen started running the program at 12 o'clock when the Bombay House was going to make an announcement only at 5 o'clock. So press always knew. When did you come to know?
The board meeting happened only at 5:30 on the 12th of Jan.
Okay.
So I didn't know how Shireen started running the ticker at 12.
And so guys, anyway, for us, it's one of our own. And we are definitely and I don't know whether Neelam designed it, But we had Mukesh Bhai from an oil and gas. He's creating a digital large conglomerate. We had Bill Rue, again, from an industrial giant, he's creating a digital giant. And now we have Mr. Digital himself in Tata Sons. So tell us about your plans. What's happening in terms of the impact of digital in the corporate houses. I'm not saying Tata Sons.
No, I think, CP, I have said it many times over and over again. The biggest difference digital has made is that it has driven technology to such a level, every business is getting embedded in technology. It's a completely different paradigm. All these years, technology was supporting business and technology was getting embedded in business. Now business is pretty much getting embedded in technology because data is so critical. Everything will emit data. And enough has been said. The importance of collecting the data, importance of analytics, importance of machine learning, insights, artificial intelligence to be able to respond, and so on and so forth. I think it will happen in every industry, and our group is no exception. And this is a change that we will see for a number of years to come. And this is going to be a big game, an exciting game. And so I don't believe for a moment, if anyone were to say that there is a turbulence in the IT industry. There is no turbulence. There is only opportunity, in my opinion.
Wow, that's lovely. So guys, let's give him a big hand again. Now you know why he's the chairman. He sees opportunities. So anyway, coming back, Chandra, when I had called you and, reminded you that we have not had a NASSCOM leadership in the last few years where you have not participated or addressed, and you said you will definitely come. And you personally wanted to talk about India's readiness or the role of technologies in India's future. You think we should stay with that topic, or should I again bring Bombay House?
You can do what you want. Say, I am a good, disciplined player. I leave the balls which I don't want to play.
Good one, good one. So, but anyway, let's come back to the. Let's come back. What is your advice to the Indian IT industry in terms of reimagining themselves or reinventing themselves? Where do you see the road ahead? Can you power that mic, please?
Can you power the mic?
So I don't want to give any advice, but I'll share some perspectives. I think every time there is a regulation change or some kind of a challenge or a perceived challenge, in our industry, everybody goes, there is a problem. And it's hyped up, whether it is a H1B, whether it is a increase in the visa fee, whatever it is, there is always a talk about IT industry is in trouble. And there are enough articles that people write. I just want to categorically say, it is the most exciting industry to be in. At a time that every business, whether you call it getting reimagined or getting redefined, you can use any term you want. Fundamentally, every business is pretty much going to be powered by technology. And so the opportunity and the demand that we are going to see is just exponential. Demand is not an issue at all. And you will always need some kind of tweaking of the business model, and whether it is products, platforms, whether it is services with less dependency on a particular type of visa or a particular type of resource. There are so many different parameters that you need to play with. It's almost analogous to a cricket pitch, which the occasional ball will do something. Because you are in an industry which is fast changing. So you need to adapt to those changes. You need to build capabilities. You need to build IP. You need to form new partnerships. If you formed a partnership with SAP, somebody is thinking here, and how do I form a partnership with GE Digital? So you need to form those new partnerships. You need to reskill your people. So the change is something that you will have to live with. But it's about facing that occasional ball every time something changes carefully. That doesn't mean that if there are 6 balls in over, 5 balls are normal balls, you don't play those balls. So you cannot get overly paranoid. So I don't think there is a cause of concern. I really feel that the opportunity is immense if you remain positive. But you need to do all of these things. You need to build skills, you need to hire the right talent, and you need to re-engineer the senior people, because the senior people come from old school. Everything is going to be agile. Trends are very clear. You've got to be 100% agile. You cannot do agile only for certain types of new applications. Even your maintenance, you've got to think in terms of agile. And I would even ask the question, why would you need maintenance if everything is agile? Okay, what does agile mean to testing? Testing will become irrelevant in the current form. So that is a change that we are going to cope with. That does not mean that there is no testing required. Testing will not exist in the current form. So agile will redefine many things. To me, that's a fundamental change of the business model or the life cycle that we follow. Similarly, if automation matures, we should be able to handle production support and maintenance in a much different way. That doesn't mean that there is no production support. That doesn't mean that there will be no maintenance. But you will just not do it the same way we do. And at the same time, analytics is going to be huge. And that will create a lot of front office. Customers typically spend a lot of money and effort in the back office systems. In the future, there will be more money spent on the front office systems. Because once you have data, once you have dependency on that data, once you have the reliability of that data, what you can do with it, we are only scratching the surface. So in terms of what we need to do, we need to think through all of this. Nobody has got a solution. Nobody knows how will I operate in a 100% agile model for all my systems, and how will I do these phases of the projects. And that thinking everybody has to do, and clarity will emerge as you do. You try out few things, and then you figure out what the new way of doing. But absolutely, I'm certain that the demand is huge and it's just happening everywhere. And the problem for our industry has always been that we have been fortunate that there is opportunity everywhere. We can operate in every industry, from banking to energy to healthcare to every industry. And we can operate in every country. The problem has been to choose. The problem has never been lack of opportunities. And with the best of efforts, even the large companies, including us, we have a strong exposure to certain industries and certain markets. Many industries are still not fully addressed. Many markets are fully not addressed. So I don't understand this question. Something is going to happen and people should get scared of it.
Thank you, Chandra.
I just definitely wanted to convey this message because people keep on asking this.
Again, thank you, Chandra. I mean, a related question is on the screen right now. So, that why Indian IT organizations have been more service or technology followers, and why have we not created technology ourselves, or why are we not the inventors? And what will propel this investment in this direction?
See, I think, let's first not rubbish the services industry. Every time an industry matures, the appreciation for services goes up. Every product company is building a services arm. Because services business has its strength and has its unique business model. And we saw the early opportunity in services, so we went after services. Because building a services industry at that time did not require any capital. And did not require that you needed to be very close to the customer. And you can go on and reflect on why we created a service industry, but we have created the best in class, world class, whatever you want to use companies in this space. And we should celebrate it and not be rubbishing it. First point.
Good point.
And whether it is in terms of the quality of service, whether it is in terms of the customer sat, whether it is in terms of the margin parameters, profit parameters, this industry has done very well. And if someone were to link all of this to labor arbitrage, I think we are doing a gross injustice. We are talking 1980. We are not talking 2010. Okay? And if labor arbitrage is the only reason, we must be having 100 companies from every part of the world doing this. So there is an enormous value in these industries, and we must celebrate it. We should not ask the question, why not product and why services? Let's leave the services industry separately and leave it as it is. It has got a great potential, and my dream is that these companies, not TCS alone, and a number of companies in this space will scale and will do wonderful things, not necessarily in terms of people, but in terms of productivity, in terms of automation, in terms of reinventing what it means to build systems for the future. All those things will happen, and I have 100% faith in that, and I wish luck for everybody. Now, coming to the product question. The question to ask is how to create product companies. The question is a very naive question, wrong question to ask. People ask me, why TCS is not creating a Windows? I mean, why don't you go and ask Satya Nadella, he's coming here next week, why don't you create TCS? I mean, so this is a very, very wrong question. I mean, so you have to create, I mean, Windows is such a phenomenal innovation. So how do we create? It's not necessary that TCS should go and create that company. How do we have companies in India, entrepreneurs in India give birth to products like Windows, companies like Google, companies like Apple? And that is something that we need to aspire for. And that is about risk-taking. And we have matured, and today we have the wherewithal today. And there are a lot of companies, a lot of people are trying it, and it will happen. But it is not to say that an Infosys or a TCS or a Cognizant tomorrow leave everything they are doing. I would rather build my relationship with Satya Nadella to do $1 billion business with Microsoft. Right? So that's a different paradigm. And product companies will come. Definitely will come from India. And we have to try. It is not because 4 people critiquing somebody that we are not creating a product company. Product company will come if we make the efforts. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs in India who will come. And we just have to give them the chance, give them the opportunity, give them that. Let me put it this way. If a startup in India creates a product, they want a meeting with you. How many of us will give meeting, including me? We will not reply first. If you reply, we will give it to somebody we'll ask him to meet somebody who has got 120% of time. So that is where the Silicon Valley ecosystem helps these companies to put them in front of the CEOs. And we need to do that for the right, bright products in India. And we need to give them the opportunity, we need to nurture. When we do that, there will be successful product company that will come from India. Not necessarily, I'm not for a minute saying that TCS should not do this. But it is not only dependent on 1, 2, 3 companies. It will come from anywhere.
Thank you. So Chandra, obviously India a lot is changing. And the digital payment world is probably accelerated the most. So we do have a question here that what is an opportunity because of remonetization? And what's your take and what's your, again, suggestion to the Indian IT industry?
See, I think, digital is happening in payments, but it needs to happen across every industry. It's not only in payments. It has to happen in healthcare, it has to happen in education, it has to happen in every other industrial sector that you talk about. And to reimagine and create that is a big opportunity for the sector. And I believe that the digital push in India is going to be very significant. I do feel that the multiple initiatives by the government will all get connected at some stage. Whether you call it Make in India, whether you call it Smart Cities, whether you call it Digital India. So all these initiatives, we have to bring it together. The best people to bring all this together is the people in this room. Otherwise, what can happen is that each one of them can grow in an isolated manner. The fundamental fabric that will connect all these initiatives is technology. So we need to be, and it's not an easy thing because it requires some innovation to bring it all together, and that's where we should focus on. If you focus on, that's a big opportunity. The second big opportunity I feel is that India has 2 problems. On the one hand, we have phenomenal talent. We almost put, I think, 10 million people to work every year. And we will be seeing 100 million people coming to the job market in the next 10 years or 8 years or whatever. On the other hand, we need jobs for these people. Okay, I believe just economic growth will not do. We need to do the growth in such a way that we solve both problems. The way to solve both problems is overlaying digital on top of physical. I call it building digital interface to physical assets. What does it mean? It means that if you take a job of an expert that has got a value chain, and we can't replicate experts. That is, we have a need for 400,000 teachers. We have a need for, I don't know how many doctors, maybe the ratio is 1 in 40 or something in some other parts of the world. We are 1 in 2,000 or something like that. And that too, they are not available in some parts of the country and so on. So the job of a doctor, the job of a teacher, the job of every expert has a value chain. That value chain has to be broken down, and only the deep expertise has to be remaining with that person so that he or she has got the bandwidth to be able to do a lot more. All the remaining things have to be done by people who are very low skilled because of the way we skill it and because of the way we build digital interfaces. I think that is a big opportunity. I really think digital and healthcare, digital and education, all of these things are tremendous opportunities for the sector.
All right, thank you again, Chandra. I know we are coming towards the end of the time. I wanted to read the citation that has been written here. N. Chandrasekharan, the tech marathon leader. Thank you for your leadership and support in building our industry and making NASSCOM the vibrant organization that it is today. So again, guys, thank you, Chandra. And I request
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, from the man himself. Insights and stories, both to take back. A huge round of applause for that session. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you. With that, we come to New Age Disruptors discussion, Aiming Beyond the Horizon, which is our next session. This session features outstanding young leaders who are pioneering innovators, reshaping our digital landscape. Learn how these startup CEOs push their teams to literally shoot beyond the current horizon to redefine digital payments, workplace collaboration, business analytics, and space exploration. To moderate this session, we have Ravi Gurraj, Chair, NASSCOM Product Council, CEO, ClickPod. Before I hand it over to Ravi, a brief on him. He's founder and CEO of ClickPod, where he's building a nationwide network of parcel delivery lockers in partnership with top-tier investors and strategic industry partners. Ravi is an entrepreneur, founder of 6 technology ventures, 2 of which exited to public NASDAQ companies, an angel investor, a mentor to numerous entrepreneurs, technology executive, and ecosystem evangelist. Ravi is a member of the NASSCOM Executive Council, chairs the NASSCOM Product Council, and co-hosts the NASSCOM Product Conclave. He is charter member of TIE Bangalore, where he launched the Cloud SIG, is co-chair founder of the Penn and Wharton Club of Bangalore, and is co-founder and co-chair of HBS Alumni Angels India chapter. So we have Ravi moderating the session. I'm going to invite him up on stage to introduce the session, the topic, and the panelists. Ravi, all over to you.
So good evening and welcome to NILF, the final session. I hope we'll be able to keep the energy up. We've had 3 outstanding speakers in the past couple of hours. I think, 3 industry giants. And what we're going to bring on stage today in this final session is 3 young entrepreneurs who are building high-growth technology companies across the globe. And each of them is pushing the envelope. And so that's why we call this session Aiming Beyond the Horizon. And we literally have one of our entrepreneurs who's aiming beyond the horizon. So let me introduce them in sequence. First and foremost, Vijay Shekhar Sharma. Where is Vijay? Hey, there he is. CEO, founder of Paytm. Now I think he needs no further introduction. Srikanth Velamakani, founder, CEO of Fractal Analytics. Srikanth, welcome. Fractal Analytics is one of the top analytics companies. He's doing a lot of stuff in machine learning, AI, which we're going to learn about now. Amit Jain, founder, CEO of Prism. Welcome, Amit. Amit is a serial entrepreneur who's built multiple companies in Silicon Valley, and he is working on redefining the workspace and what it means to be interacting with your colleagues and partners and the future collaboration. And last but not the least, we have Rahul Narayanan, who's shooting for the moon, literally. Founder, CEO of Indus, the Indus team, that's shooting to put a rover on the moon in a few weeks, in a few months. So Vijay, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about the demonetization moment for Paytm. I mean, come on, I got to come up with the most obvious question, and everybody didn't like this ride for the last 2 months.
I think every company truly gets that inflection point in their history, and last 2 months has been so incredibly different for us. The reach that we never expected, the customer base we never thought that we will get in such a short span of time, and the places that we will see Paytm being accepted is so incredible that I never believed that India and the Bharat, which is like language web and language customer base there, will come together so fast and so early. And the best thing is, I never believed that in the first year of our offline payment launch. So Paytm literally started offline payment in-store payments in the January of 2016. We will have offline overtake online, and standalone Paytm now does more than 200 million transactions, which is more than sigma of all bank and all card network combined, and that could happen in a year itself. I mean, if there is something called anti-gravity, I experienced it, and 2G, 3G, 4G, this is, by the way, car, Formula 1 speed, and then the gravity, not a 4G network gravity here. And this happened to us. So I think, oh, great creator of being, grant us 1 more hour to perform our arts.
Very good. You know, I think luckiest man around, most recently. I think, I met Vijay a month after demonetization, and I can swear, I think you were just floating, okay, in the room that day. Srikanth, tell us a little bit about what you all are doing at Fractal. You're doing a lot of machine learning, AI, you're really pushing the envelope there, building products. Can you walk us through that a bit?
Sure. Just think about it, right? Many of you might or might not admit this, but probably secretly know within yourself that all of you are terrible at making decisions, me included, right? Just look at some statistics, right? 90% of startups fail. 70 to 90% of M&A transactions don't add any shareholder value. Almost 40% of global marriages end up in divorce. And there are 1 million people dying every year just because of road accidents, right? All of these are examples of terrible decisions because we have significant cognitive biases. We use heuristics and shortcuts to make decisions, and they usually lead us astray. We have limitations. We are very bad at even basic math, compound interest, probability. We have trouble processing information. We have insufficient willpower. When we make decisions, we are not able to stick to it, and we are not able to even make good decisions for ourselves. In that world, we need help. And that kind of help is what we want to provide. I think it's time that we start sharing the space with algorithms. It's time that we start sharing the space of decision making with AI. And I'll just give you 2 examples of where we are doing that. At Cure.ai, what we are doing is to revolutionize the way healthcare is delivered, especially in the diagnostics area. Think of what it takes today to figure out how well your heart is pumping. If you were to do a cardiac MRI and then use that to compute what is called ejection fraction, it can take up to 15 minutes for a doctor to manually do it. And a deep learning algorithm can do it in 15 seconds or less. There are diseases like interstitial lung disease where 2 doctors may not agree with each other. And we can make sure that algorithm provides a sane voice that mediates them. If you look at accuracy, there is the number of people who are dying because of medical errors every year is between 1 million and 10 million. That many people are dying because of medical errors. Imagine what an algorithm can do being consistent, accurate voice in those decision making. We are disrupting how healthcare is, how radiologists do their job by bringing in Cure.ai. The second example is think about your work life and your personal life. In your work life, in your personal life, you have Facebook, you have LinkedIn, you have a whole host of things that are telling you what you need to know. You know exactly what's going on in the social life of all your friends and co-workers and everything else. But if you want to know what's happening in your business, you're struggling. It's clunky, old world interfaces. You go to slice and dice BI, click and try to find out what is the right answers. What you really need is to know what is likely to happen, what you really need to know right now. Somebody has to tell you. And that's what we're trying to do with Cuddle. Tell you, before you ask, tell you what you need to know on your mobile. So that's how we are disrupting the industry.
Awesome. We'll get into this a little more next. Thank you. Amit, can you tell us a little bit, you're redefining, you claim, the workspace, right? And how collaboration happens. And in fact, some of your devices are available to the audience to go try out. Tell us a little bit about what you think, because collaboration, there are lots of tools for collaboration, right? So let me challenge you to tell us how you're going to redefine it going forward.
Okay, let me talk about a few trends. You just heard about data analytics. It's not for specialists. It's going to be ubiquitous to everyone to make better decisions. If you look at digital content, 10x of new digital content getting created every 5 years. That means 90% of new digital content or more every 5 years. Okay? The third, very important, lots of specialized applications are coming up or are already there, cloud-based. They are independent of operating systems or independent of devices. There's lots of information available. How can you bring them in a contextual, relevant form that you can make informed decision or get better insights? Today's collaboration system includes video conferencing, chat, single content sharing at a time, and maybe whiteboard calling smartboard. These are very serial fashion, incremental changes that's been happening for the longest time. Is that sufficient to really fight those trends? That's been my journey for the last 10 years at Prism, and what I'm trying to, what I've brought to the table here is think about any number of content and applications being able to be viewed and interacted with simultaneously in a persistent manner so that you can make a better informed decision based on much better insight on multiple set of contents. We can't live with the serial world looking at, say, a PowerPoint, then moving to Excel and looking at dashboard. Imagine everything is together in front of you. And in fact, you can come back a day later, a month later, a year later. It'll come back to you. It's in original form the way you set it up. You can interact with as many number of people around the world with any kind of device. You don't want to be locking it into a device. Just like we are becoming agnostic to operating systems, you should be agnostic to device. So really what Prism has become, platform of platforms. You can run Microsoft Office, Google Docs, ERP systems, CRM system, data analytics systems, all simultaneously side by side, and get a much better understanding. Okay? For us to deliver such a system, okay, if we limit it to a particular type of display to visualize things, if we limit it to a particular type of operating system or a mobile device, we are limiting it. Prism is completely agnostic to all of this. And that makes us really powerful. Example, the real example of this is we have over 200 Fortune 1000 already as our customers. Growing very rapidly, SaaS-based solution. We are truly a global operations, based in Silicon Valley headquartered, but the largest team is in the software and services hub of India. So I'm really proud to say that we're bringing the two big worlds, India and US, together. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. So our final panelist, Rahul Narayanan, is actually shooting for the moon. I think, it's an auspicious day, right? ISRO just broke the world record a few hours ago. And, big round for ISRO, launching 104 satellites. So I think, you're the right person to tell us what woke you up 5 years ago and made you want to, hey, I'm going to put something.
You said I have to be the odd man out on this panel 6 years from now. So almost 6 years to date. February 2011 is when I founded this team. I'd love to imagine all startups begin this way. You start up you start with a bunch of assumptions. You start with an envelope and a pen. You figure something out and say, okay, this is something we can do in the next 2 years, and this is going to cost us X. It's 6 years since. It has already cost us thrice of that, and we're 1 year away from actually making it happen. So wrong assumptions, but it started the right journey. It's been an amazing journey of trying to build technology, engineering from scratch in a highly secure, not knowledge-sharing kind of an environment. When we talk about propulsion and space, these are areas that people do not want to share information with you. So for us, the starting point was 6 years ago. We made a few assumptions. We got most of them wrong. We definitely got the budget wrong. But it's been a great journey of people identifying with the core theme. So the core theme of Team Indus is It's about new world thinking. It's about predicting the future. In 2011, we thought that we could be done by 2015, but it was about predicting the future. It was about trying to figure out what is the technology that we needed and trying to put all of that together in a startup environment which has no revenues for the last 6 years.
All right. But tell us a little bit about the challenge itself. What is it that you're trying to do specifically?
Yes. So we're a Google Lunar X Prize team. This is an international competition that requires privately funded teams to build a spacecraft, land it on the moon, and make it move 500 meters. This is something that has been done by 3 countries before: Russians and Americans back in the 60s, 70s, China as of 2013. So for a startup, starting on the back of that envelope, it was a bit of a challenge to pick up. And we started from scratch. We've engineered all these systems, and we've reached a point where we feel fairly confident. Come end of this year, we will be launching the moon, to the launch this morning.
And how long will it take to get to the moon?
Thank you.
Rahul, I have a question. In IT industry, there is a role called QA, which you test before launch. So how do you test? How do you QA it? Where does it go?
Sir, आप unit testing करते हो ना? एक server लगा करके all the servers get.
हवा में जाता है फिर वापस आता जाता है.
So when you build a system, there is a 12-step process. It's a stage gate review process that you follow, and we do the same. And
it does fly, as in
you vibrate it. It's the same.
You try to simulate this is
absolutely. So what you'd experience when you go into space, you simulate that here. We built 3 models. We're building the 4th right now. The 5th will come out in July, and that's the one that will fly.
Wow. Cheers.
Very good. So Vijay, I'm going to come back to you. I actually have to rewind the slides because you promised to do something special for this audience, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're going to share, he's going to share his dashboard, okay? Live. I was right there when he plugged into it. So let's go back a few slides. And
okay,
walk us through that.
January numbers. 31st January MIS, which comes every day in the morning. And what it is telling you is, in 31st January, we had 225 million transactions, which is the second row MTD, month till date. And that month on month from December, it was 11% up. And we have 5,000 crore of transaction volume, which is in a month. And in a day, we are showing 155, which, by the way, today is 178 crore a day. And the number, which is 7 million, which is effectively the 20% that you're seeing red, is last 7-day rolling average, which also tells you that how big it is. And right now, that is 8 million. And if you see bottom last number, 187, we now have 191 million accounts. For the record, SBI has 202 million accounts. And for the record, all card networks are 200 million.
Amazing.
So this is January.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The last time we were in Delhi, you showed it to me personally, but I said, you got to show it to the audience because the numbers keep going up. They tick up every month, right?
Yeah, actually, I mean, what I saw is, I want to share this with everyone. I think when 2011, I wanted to start Paytm, my board was the biggest. I saw Debjani and Intel was on my board, by the way, Pradeep Tagare. So his point was, this country has produced you as a great company. How about taking it global? Which is logically rational because we were a technology company helping telcos. And at the same point in time, I was saying that, look, I think there is an opportunity for us to build a payment business on smartphones. 2011, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time when 3G was yet to come in the country at a penetration level. Smartphones weren't there. The $200 was an Android cheapest phone. Cheapest phone. So otherwise $600 and $500 phones. And that time, my board literally said no by telling me you have to shut this is not good. In a country where people are used to of using cash and people are trust you, how can you talk about smartphones in a country where there are not one? And I want to share, I remember that after a board call, one of my investors called me and said that you sounded a little passionate about it. Are you serious about it? I said, if we are not trusting, the board is not trusting, I can put 1% of my equity on the table, that the money that you give me, that is more worth than the 1% of equity, and if it doesn't work, everybody can equally split in their manners, so that you give me 5 crore to work. And in fact, in 2011, I was given 5 crore, 5 months, so that in the alternate board meeting, I can say whether Paytm works or not. And I tell you one thing, when I went for fundraising of Paytm, and I think we all know there was a round that I did from Alibaba in China, I had a slide which is, we had 13 million accounts, and the slide had a ... 100 million. I said, and I swear on God that had 2017 as a target line, and 2015 we did 100 million users. I mean, this country is amazing. Every one of us, everyone in this country, in this room, has a business where we have always served the customers which are in the Western or a developed world. IT industry basically thrives on capability of our minds, which are capable and build software, but we don't have our customers in this country. That is why TCS and Infosys and everybody else found customers outside. But today is the first time in this country when you have a legitimately large, hundreds of million users, that you can build a sizable value-creating, wealth-creating, and impact-creating companies in this country for the countrymen of this country. And you can build a company with the software that is being written in this country for our fellow countrymen. Yes, this will be costly, but I swear on God, it will be far more satisfying than building a software for a company which you don't even go and visit. I think this is a time for every entrepreneur, every company to build a company in this country for this countryman. And look at this. I mean, we always have been dreaming India will build the innovation for the next billion, because the first billion sort of are inherited by our Western counterparts. Why on earth? I mean, who gave them ROFR to do that? Payments. Paytm won't stop till the time we see Paytm accepted here in San Francisco and New York. In the country where it started, and people think that is a place where it is owned as a place where the innovation is obligated to have. Why on earth an Indian company not create a consumer product? It's not a B2B business product, it's a consumer product, and consumers globally will use it. And I can tell you one thing, that global companies, in their mindset of a cost structure, look, let me give you a little bit of innovation that we were able to see and how it grew was, typically a retailer has an obligation of IT systems, the POS, the computer, the systems. And then consumer comes with a currency or a card, which is a dumb device. In this room, everybody understands, because it does not have a network and chip, so dumb device, which is card or currency. And a retailer has a cost. That is why $100 capex, $20 monthly rental, and 2% transaction fee. Now think about it. What we've done is we've 180-degree switched it. The network and the computing cost is with the consumer in the smartphone, and the merchant has only a simple dumb QR code, which is zero cost. Now the transaction can happen from the consumer side and go to the network and come back. And oh my God, that transaction works like smooth inside of the world. We all know in this room what is PPP. This is not a sound. This is point-to-point protocol. We all know what GPRS upload is. We all know what PPP is. We all know what it takes for a POS machine to go and come back, give a transaction length. And think about it, that time when it is all is happening, it just takes a scan and a local transaction, and voila, it can complete itself. That when we were handling the peak, I want to tell you, we were handling 35,000 TPS on our payment system in the peak in the month of December. And that peak transaction volume can take us to 5x of what these numbers are on a current IT cloud and infrastructure. And this can be built in this country. I mean, this can be built in this country. And that is exactly what I believe is India's product, as we call it, or IT businesses, as we call it, as an opportunity. Today, India is a market for world to come. Today, we talk about capital dumping from outside companies. Today, we as Indians should shoot everybody in the hip and say that this is our market and we're going to win it in this country. You can come in, you can play, and you can play on the equal footing in ground, and you can throw a ton of money, and we will throw nearly equally or ton of more intelligence on the table. Because money is not the answer for the problem any which ways. If solution is money, then I think you've not found the solution. And that is exactly what is called Indian Jugaad and Indian business, I think.
Okay, thank you, Vijay. I assume you're not on the roster in UP, right, for the elections? I think you might win hands down.
Oh, okay.
Now, thank you. That's very inspiring. So, Rahul, I think you're inspiring us in other ways as well. And tell us a little bit about what it takes to build this kind of an audacious product, right? Yours is a product for all practical purposes. Going to the moon, what is it going to take? And how does that translate into a business for you?
Yeah, it's not a product in the conventional sense, but we've had no revenue, so that's the starting point or the definition to say that we're building something that would create value in the process of building that out. And once that's done, we will be able to go out there and create value for ourselves. One of the starting points for any kind of product is to have a systems level thinking. And I today thank, and I'm not sure if I truly valued the advice I got back then, but I today thank the 3-4 saints or sages, if you could call them, advisors who came in early on and said, to build a product, you need to have a very clear vision. You can't go onto the internet next Monday and say, oh, those guys are doing something else, why don't we pivot? So pivoting is a great word used by startups, but it's not great for your product roadmap. You can accelerate a roadmap by throwing more intelligence, by throwing more money, by throwing more metal, but you can't necessarily keep changing what your product is going to be. Having said that, evolution is ripe. Startups have to look at what's going on in the market, and you can't just keep your head dug into the sand. So to my mind, what held us in good stead was the starting point was great. The vision that we set out for ourselves by way of a product vision, by way of what we wanted to develop was rock solid. It was based in core engineering, basic physics. This is what we can do. We're not going to attempt to do something very, very sexy. As is, it's difficult enough. Let's not make it any more difficult for ourselves. So the definition of the product, the roadmap that we had, the engineering guidelines that we put into place were what set us off on the right path. The next part was systems level thinking, which is you can't re-engineer everything from scratch. You can't buy the whole thing off the shelf. So you have to think like a systems engineer. You have to think like a product manager and say, what is the core objective? Does the system that I'm putting together meet the objective that I'm trying to build it for? So just as an example, when we started off, we said we're going to land about 30 kgs of usable payload on the surface of the moon. Today we're down to 25. Our competitors, and we had 30 odd teams to start off with, half of them American, started by saying we're going to land 200 kgs on the moon, we're going to land 500 kgs on the moon, we're going to bring something back, this, that, the other. They went all around the bush to say this could also be done, this makes it sexier, this makes it cooler, this makes it more amenable to somebody that they met. But we started with 30, we actually down to 25, and we're happy with that. I think it's a difficult task that allowed us to keep diving deeper into systems as opposed to changing the configuration, so to say, over and over and again. This is tough. Hardware is tough, borrowing your lines. Hardware is hard. Building a spacecraft is harder still. And just an anecdote on the previous question that Vijay had, our first prototype, we managed to scrape together money. It costed us about 40 lakhs to build. As our good, we built it. Then the judges were going to come down. We won $1 million for doing that prototype. And they said, we want to see you test this. And the only person who could test it was ISRO. And we said, hey, would you test this for us? So they said, sure, here's a 100,000 bill just to test it. So hardware is really hard. Testing hardware is even harder and more difficult to prove that it works. So It's been an interesting journey.
Very good. Amit, the question for you here, my children, I thought I was quite hip. I do Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, And
You don't do Snapchat.
Exactly the point.
Yeah.
They said, no, Dad, you're fuddy-duddy. We do Snapchat, we do all different apps, right? So how are you going to cope with the millennia generation, right, in the workplace? Because they're not going to use email even possibly, right? It's not going to be the desktop the way we see it today. What's collaboration going to look like then?
Great point here. Just look at India alone. It has 700 million people who are millennials. By 2020, you will have 65% of the workforce as millennials. Millennials are defined in 20s and 30s year old. And they grew up with mobile phone. They grew up with consumerization of technology. You cannot take them into a conference room and say, connect your PC and figure out, and then dial tone and dial in, and then turn the video on and get the IT guy to turn it on. No, it's not going to work. Okay? They will not use the old clunky desktops even, right? How do you get them attracted to work? It means US has 70 million millennials, right? 10% of India, right? But still, it's a big issue when there's such a large workforce of millennials coming in. You have to really redefine the workplace, okay? What I mean by that is, if you don't define the workplace, they will do shadow IT. They'll violate company rules. They will get technologies and apps. They will run it and use it without getting approvals because they want ease of access, ease of use, and ease of the way of work. And so that's why it's very important to make very easy to use platform. That's what we do. And it has to be same experience whether you are in a boardroom, meeting rooms, huddle rooms, office, their desktop, their mobile phone, you don't care. They do exactly the way they want to use the software. They want to use all the different apps. They can run any apps they want. They can share with any number of people they want. And that's what you want, not force them to use an application, force them to use a device. Give you an example. In India alone, a very large Fortune company decided to make a brand new building completely millennial ready. It's a 13, 14-story building, and they decided to use Prism displays in every room, 100 plus rooms, and use a license for all of them. So it doesn't matter where they go. They don't even have to bring their laptop. They just go into any rooms, log in, and they have all their content available to them exactly the same way as if they would have done on their mobile phone versus in a conference room. Now you're talking about collaboration. Now you're talking about team meetings. Now you're talking about them working together and doing innovation. Really, the key 3 points are serial versus simultaneous use of content. Number 2 is meeting goes with you. You don't go to the meeting room. So it doesn't matter whether I'm on mobile, I can join the meeting or I can be in the meeting room. And number 3, meeting is always on. That means meeting is a journey. You don't start and finish meeting and the content is gone. You can start where you left off next week. Innovation is not a snapshot. It's really a continuum process. And that's the power that gives to these millennials who are really driven and passionate about innovation. If there's no innovation, they won't enjoy work. And in fact, 86% of people don't enjoy work, believe it or not, because of poor access to technology and because of lack of innovation. And that's what's driving everything. India has the largest millennials. Take advantage.
So India is going to be a huge market potentially for you.
India is one of our biggest markets. I tell you, I was totally surprised, I would say. India is not just one of the biggest markets, but it's a leading market. In fact, US MNCs started first in India. An Indian IT organization is driving those decision-making. And it's coming up later in US and other parts of the world. So India is truly adopting latest technologies at the fastest rate than I can imagine.
Got it. So Shrikant, you're one of the biggest top-tier pure-play analytics companies in the world. And data and algorithms now are going to be the source of competitive edge going forward, right? So give us a little bit of sense of, what you're in the enterprise, how you're going to drive decision-making, what 10 years out this is going to look like. What are you aiming for, to keep to the theme of this session, beyond the horizon in some sense, right? Where is this headed?
Sure. If you look at how organizations make decisions today, about 60% of the decisions are purely gut-based, experience-based decisions, and 40% are somewhat data-driven. Of that, about 5% are purely data-driven, purely algorithm-driven. I believe in 10 years from now, that should be very different. a whole host of decisions. Maybe 5% will still be experience driven, purely experience driven, but 95% of the decisions will have some element of data, or they will be purely algorithmic. That is the world that we want to shape. We want to power every human decision in the enterprise and make sure that there is data, information, and analytics driving that decision. Because the way we seek information, the way we consume information to make decisions will change a whole lot. Today, you know that there are a whole host of decisions you're making. And I mean, imagine you're taking the map, you're not using a map, and you take one wrong turn, you lose 20 minutes. But the similar decision in the business world could make you lose hundreds of millions of dollars, people, all kinds of stuff. And therefore, we can't ignore the world of data. I think people are realizing it. Everybody has talked about deep learning, AI, and machine learning through the day, so I don't really have to sell that to anyone. But I think the way it will shape is it taking a larger and larger part of strategic, tactical, and operational decisions. Strategic decisions are high impact, less regular decisions. Operational decisions are what will happen every day, high velocity decisions. There is no place for human beings in that world, for sure. And then there are tactical decisions, things that you and I decide every day, but we need better information. That's where Cuddle is something that will power those decisions, because we need more information, more data. Eventually, these are still human decisions, but we need information. That's how we are thinking about it, dividing the decisions into strategic, tactical, and operations, and making sure that AI is beginning to play an important role in how these decisions are driven.
Great, very good. So Vijay, I'm going to end with you before we go to audience questions. You work closely now with Jack Ma, and so give us a little bit of sense, and you have a lot of insight, perspective there on how China has scaled, and especially B2C, and where India may be headed. So what is your perspective of beyond the horizon, for our internet consumer play especially?
Okay, so if I was to trust what is happening in China and some of that will happen in India, then this battle of payment or battle of commerce will not be the battle, because the battle will be the truest ecosystem battle. Ecosystem is when you enter the let's say one of the ecosystems through one entry point, like WeChat is a social, Alibaba is a commerce or payment ecosystem, and then you build many services around it. And I want to tell you that ecosystem arcs are bigger, and then they overshadow many smaller arcs. So giving you a little bit of anecdotal example here also, and totally inspired from China, was that we were wondering that if this payment business, which is very high throughput and a lower transaction, because our obligation as a Paytm is we will bring MDRs to 0% and then to -%. Let's just remember, that's our business obligation as an obligation. Payment transaction costs 0% and then negative, dot. Now, if you want to bring that, then how will you bring your revenues? In the business model will be that we will pick up the revenues from high margin categories. For example, like let's say digital goods categories like cinema ticket, bus ticket, and train tickets. Total shocker for me. I mean, this is what I learned from China, that you don't have to shy away from entering the categories which you never thought that you would get in. And you should get in like an aggressive get in. For example, like in less than 6 months, July is when we launched, January I'm talking, less than 6 months, Make My Trip plus IBIBO combined does 34 million annual transaction. In month of January, Paytm is doing 2 million a month, that is 24 million transactions within the launch of 6 months on travel category. In the cinema ticket category, which is another incredible, and we all in India know this is how an incredibly incumbent-led, incredibly dominating market share company that exists here. And we just wanted to get in the space because we thought that this is learning from China, that you can get in because you have a traffic to something else. So giving you a number here. PVR Cinemas, which is the largest chain and largest savvy in the city chain, had 37% on the peak month online bookings. So all the box office collections, 37% online. Paytm, last movie that got released, total box office collections, 24% only at Paytm. 24%. We increased the market share and we took the majority of market share. This happened less than 6 months now. We're talking 5 months. You're talking about demonetization payment, and I'm talking about the categories that we are getting in. This is exactly aggressive China is. I think there in that country, they literally have a aggression of getting into the categories which people never thought of, and then getting in the categories and building them, and at a level and speed which people are just shocked by. I wish that we don't get spread too thin, but at the same point of time, these digital categories will be definitely the categories that we will get in. And working closely, I remember one question when I had money and he was part of our board meeting. I said, what do you think? We seem to be having a market share which is fairly good. Quote unquote, RBI told that we are 78% market share for the record. So I said, this seems like a pretty decent market share. What do you think we should be doing? Now it seems the time for us to conserve cash and sort of break even. I think you should go aggressive. When you are bigger than every 2, 3, 4, 5 combined, and you are bigger than by 4 times, that is the time you call market share. This is good, but not great. Let's hit for great market share. And how about building a market itself? And for the record, Paytm put $500 million on the table and spent for payment industry. I repeat, Paytm put $500 million on the table and spent for payment industry. Nobody else did it. So if somebody thinks that we are lucky bastards who picked up out of what happened in 2 months, let me repeat it again. $500 million when you throw, people do not know. That is the time you say you're building industry. And that is what we did. So here goes. Sometimes you have an obligation of creating a category, and even when this is not seen, and capital which comes extraordinary ahead of the market demand. And that is what I think is China that I can learn from.
Very good. Thank you, Vijay. Nobody ever accused you of holding back. And, I think you are a lucky chap, I'd say.
Thank you.
You get the timing right. Timing in life is everything.
Yeah, okay.
And you're at the right place at the right time, right?
But I want to tell you, if you want to, let me give a little bit of context to right timing movement, which this country again is at, and people may see or not. I see what is happening to the banking or financial service industry is what happened to the telecom industry a few years back. So remember, the telecom operator used to control every content and every service that would go to you. And then came the disintermediating telecom operator called device, app ecosystem. And now it started from music, went to messaging. Now in the call and the video call, everything happens in the app. And the bottom becomes a sort of infrastructure on top of it, which happens. That's exactly nearly what probably is happening in the financial services industry. A bank account, services like payment, lending, insurance, and everything else from independent app companies, and then creativity. So one social network to other social network. One was tweeting, other was photoing. So Instagram, that's exactly, one is lending the money for better based on credit data, and another is lending from P2P. So that is what is happening. So disintermediation of banks to the customer relationship is happening, and time is here, time is now. You can't say that I was timely lucky. Everybody is open secret now.
Okay. And just to hedge your bets, you're also a bank now, right?
Oh, great creator of being, grant us one more hour to perform our arts. and no eternal awards will forgive us now for wasting the dawn. Jim Morrison.
Very good.
So that is the movie coming.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the audience? Can you bring it up on the screen if there are any? Otherwise, okay. So I think we've run out of time. We have the award ceremony in the park outside, I think, and that'll be announced shortly. Hey, a big round for our 4 entrepreneurs. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Rahul. Shooting for the moon there. And thank you, Vijay, as always. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Of course, an amazing session, hearing it hottest in US from the entrepreneurs themselves. As a token of our appreciation, I'd like to request Ravi to hand over mementos to all of our speakers. I'm going to request you to stay on stage. And Ravi, thank you so much for moderating that session so well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to announce an award now. We have the winner. Ravi, I'm going to request you to stay on stage because we have to get you to pick a lucky draw. So I'm going to actually ask you to stay on stage. Can we request the team to come up with the fishbowl? So we have Stan and Yolanda from Invest in Holland. They're from Invest in Holland, and I'm going to request you guys to join the stage. So this is basically, if you've visited the Invest in Holland stall and you've put your card in there, you'll probably win a trip to Amsterdam today. The same thing's happening tomorrow as well. Ravi, if you can just pick the name. And the winner is, if she's in the room, it goes to Jyoti Singh, Global Marketing Head, NIIT Technologies. Do we have Jyoti here? No? Okay, so we'll have to pick one more. No? You give it to the same person tomorrow? Okay, so she's somewhere here in the audience. So if you know Jyoti, tell her she just won herself a trip to Amsterdam. So the same thing's happening tomorrow as well. Make sure you visit the Invest in Holland stall. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much. Swati, here you go. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we close the conference for the first day at NILF 2017. And for those of you who missed the inaugural, let me remind you, this is the 25th anniversary of NILF. Also, as per the new format, we call it Day Zero, the first day. In addition, I would like to request all of you to visit the Tech Cafe zone and experience what the future really looks like. And now I'm going to request all of you to proceed to the exhibition ground where we have the NASSCOM Global Leadership Awards followed by cocktails and dinner sponsored by Capgemini. Our chief guest for the evening is Shri Nitin Gadkari, Honorable Minister for Road Transport, Highways and Shipping. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Look forward to meeting you all at the awards evening. Remember, network till you drop. Thank you. Good evening. I'll see you all tomorrow here. Thank you.